Sir.
Jonathan Rhoda from everyone was here at all, so the banking and wardrobes in town. And what is your assessment of how far some of these people, particularly the ones on Capitol Hill and the Republican candidates, how far they are willing to go, really willing to go? And how much
I mean, what I fear, of course, is that there are lots of, I don't have to single out Capitol Hill, there are lots of people who are analysts of this who are prepared to go all the way in egging on a president and suggesting that he's less than presidential if he doesn't act. And as soon as we have to suffer the consequences of that act, walk away from it. I mean, I do believe that Iran has assets in lots of places that can cause us harm. And so that if we decide we have to do this, or if Israel does it, we are implicated, or even if we're not. I think no one should do this lightly for the loss of life that would occur in the strike. Iranian innocents, Americans, Israelis, whomever here. Military action of this kind in the Middle East, and now think about what the Middle East is like and the complications in the region with Syria, with the Egyptian situation quite unsettled. You should not be embracing this unless you're prepared to embrace the uncertainty and possibly pretty large downsides. I mean, and uncertainty is what I'm really pointing to here about what the consequences would be. This is not a simple decision about whether you're going to bomb a single research reactor or not. This is not like that. Sir.
Yes, thank you. I want to address an unintended consequence.
Name and affiliation.
John from the an unintended consequence of the sanctions. As you know, our Korea is thankful to a Pakistani scientist for its nuclear capabilities. Pakistan just Iran willing to sell natural gas in Pakistan. The State Department is trying to stop that effort. Nonetheless, Pakistan is willing to export 1 million tons of food to Iran in for gas. Iran will sell that natural gas to Pakistan. Pakistan will transfer 1 million tons of food. Country this investment ship. We have elections in 2014. Are we pushing Pakistan to the brink because we're so focused on Iran?
I'll just stipulate that everything you said was right. I haven't followed it that closely, so I don't know that it's right, but you said it with good confidence, so I'll stipulate that. So, the Pakistan case is to me, because of the kinds of concern I have about transfers and leakage as well as transfer, the most worrying case on the planet for the United States of America. And the prescription isn't at all clear. I mean, we have some ideas that we need to focus more on Pakistan, maybe over time when we don't have the lives of American citizens and allies at risk in Afghanistan, a tad bit less on Afghanistan, define this more as a Pakistan issue. We probably need to do something about supporting those in Pakistan who don't accept the Pakistan military narrative about India and its threat to Pakistan and building up a belief that it exists in Pakistan, in fact, that India is Pakistan's future in economic terms. We need to move in that direction and demilitarize the relationship substantially. In this particular case, I can imagine someone weighing the consequences of our efforts to get Iran's attention and isolate Iran and saying, well, wait a minute, this one is a mistake. I was recently spoke to a representative from the Indian government who was asking for a little relief here, and as you know, we gave relief to the Japanese government. So this is a judgment call, in my view, I think you have put your finger on an interesting and important concern. I don't know how to net it out myself. I would like to think the administration considered that and decided that this is an exquisite time in a relationship with Iran, partially because of all the fire that's been built under this pot to keep it boiling over whether there's going to be military action. We have the discussions coming up to be 5+1. This is a time for getting Iranian attention. Maybe not so bad to do it now for that reason. But I'm not here to tell you that there might not be costs in terms of our bilateral relations with other countries. Hi, Daryl.
How would you suggest success language? How could these 5+1 negotiations be structured in a way that's more successful than this will be a year ago? How would you prioritize the tasks for the 5+1 people? And what's reasonable for this person to be on the table to do it? So, if there is also.
Yeah, I have well-developed thoughts about how negotiation like this ought to proceed. They may not be good thoughts, but they're developed. And for me, this starts with our side figuring out what we need. And making sure that that's what we're driving for. That's why when I was talking about what a deal looked like, I was suggesting to you that I don't know, in fact, what the government will accept. I think that a fair debate can take place about what it ought to accept. But how this will go down, I think, will depend a lot on what it is we need from Iran. I think I was once in a debate over the agreed framework, and I made the best case I could for the agreed framework. And the fellow I was debating said all the things that were absent from the agreed framework. And thankfully, someone from the arms control community said, well, I could have written a much better agreement than Gallucci negotiated. I just couldn't have negotiated a better agreement. So I'm not sure that's true. This was a very distinguished guy. But that's really the point. I think we could write down what we need. We should write down what we need. And that's what we actually have to get before we will subside. And of course, the we in this has to take account of the Israelis as well as the other members of the P5+1. So what I'm saying is, the short answer to your question is we ought to bite this bullet and recognize, and also biting that bullet means we ought to have decided, or at least the president ought to have decided, I don't want to tell anybody, that if we fail to get it, he knows what he's going to do, something or nothing. And that's important too. So as to what the Iranians will accept, I think that the plus side of this, we ought to be creative. There's so much in the literature about what we could give the Iranians. You've seen this. There'll be an enrichment plan in some other country. They could own it. Okay. Well, wait a minute. They can have an enrichment plan, but they can't be alone in operating. It'll be multilateral, multinational. We can deliver, guarantee them fuel. My own favorite was not to guarantee them fuel or anything, but buy the fuel assemblies and stack them underground next to the reactor, say for 30 or 40 years. Guaranteed supply of fuel right there. No need for enrichment for that reactor. reactor. Well, suppose they build another reactor. Well, it'll take another 20 years. So let's kick that can down the road. So there are ways of doing this. I'm not actually entirely tongue-in-cheek when I suggest this, that one can imagine ways, if it was just meeting the need for fuel for the reactor. It isn't. Remember, they have a really robust nuclear weapons program. So the first thing you got to do is back them off their weapons program. Second, this is a huge domestic issue in Iran. Even if they decided on one day they'd rather it wasn't, it is. So they've got to cope with that anyway. And if we're smart about this, and I'm prepared to believe the people who engage in these negotiations are certainly smart, they will be taking account of this. But any solution that gets them farther away from having a breakout nuclear weapons capability is a big plus. But understand, for the Iranians, that's what it's all been all about, at least.